Hi, my name is Al Zelaya. I'm an urban forester with the Davey Tree Expert Company, and today I'd like to introduce you to the iTree suite of urban forest assessment tools. What I would first like to do is to provide a bit of background information on the iTree software suite, and I think that this will help us once we start exploring a few of the individual applications more in depth. This will give us basically a better foundation of understanding as we consider how some of these tools can be used by master gardeners or other volunteers who are interested in utilizing iTree for local community or neighborhood type projects. After we learn a bit of the basics about iTree, we can then explore iTree Design and iTree Canopy, which are both online tools. Design is a simple online tool that provides a platform for assessing ecosystem services of individual or multiple trees at the parcel level, and it works with a Google Map interface that allows you to see how tree selection, tree size, or tree placement around your home can affect energy use and other benefits. Canopy is a little bit of a different tool, which is also online, and it allows you to conduct a canopy survey or a canopy cover survey utilizing Google aerial images. So Canopy can produce a statistically valid estimate of land cover types such as tree or impervious cover. And they can really be helpful if you're interested in determining your local canopy cover or setting goals, or actually even for monitoring canopy change over time. Then we'll take a look at one other tool, which is called iTree Streets. And this is a desktop application, so it's a little bit more advanced. And it's a tool that's primarily used by municipalities who are interested in estimating benefits of community street trees. However, there are a few ways that I think that iTree Streets can be utilized for smaller scale neighborhood type projects. So what is iTree? iTree is a software suite of urban forest assessment tools which was developed by the USDA Forest Service and its partners. So the foundation of iTree is based in peer-reviewed science, and many of these tools, some of the research that was conducted that was used to build these tools dates back into the 90s. The tools were first made available in 2006 at the International Society of Arboriculture Conference, the ISA, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And since the tools were developed largely with taxpayer dollars, they're provided free in the public domain. So you can simply go to the itreetools.org website and download these tools. We now have several tools which are available online, so they don't even require any software installation, and so it's highly accessible. One of the other things is that it's continuously improved, so it's dynamic. As new research is made available, it can then be integrated into the tools, and it's updated continuously. So there's always new versions that come out as new information becomes available. And we also provide technical support for these tools. We realize that it can be challenging because we have a great variety of different users with different skill sets. So we have a support line and a email address and a users forum where you can go and get technical help if you need some assistance. Right now the iTree program is collectively managed by the U.S. Forest Service, Davey Tree, the Arbor Day Foundation, the Society of Municipal Arborists, the ISA, and also Casey Tree. So there's a number of organizations who collectively work to advance and build and keep the program moving forward. The basic premise behind iTree is that it uses a benefit-based approach. So for example, many communities may have a tree inventory, so they might have an idea of species and size and distribution of their urban forests. And that's a great tool for managing an urban forest and developing management plans. But how iTree differs that it allows you to then use that structural information of that tree resource and run that through these series of applications, these iTree applications, which will allow you then to understand and estimate the ecosystem services of that urban forest or an individual tree in some cases. So it gives you a greater understanding than of some of the services provided by those trees beyond just the structural information. So we could start looking at things in terms of how much are trees reducing air pollution, how much stormwater is being captured by tree canopy, how much carbon is being sequestered and stored by the urban forests, how are trees helping with energy savings. So this allows us to have a more comprehensive understanding of the values that trees are providing, and this in turn allows us to be both more strategic and effective in our management and planning, but also in our advocacy efforts. So an understanding of tree benefits allows us to be more effective or strategic in managing and planning and caring for the urban forests, but it also allows us to connect tree values to community values. So for instance, energy savings. It's a real tangible benefit to the community. Air quality improvement may be very important to people who suffer from respiratory illnesses where poor air quality exacerbates things such as asthma. And even things like stormwater management, people often don't realize that they may be paying fees or they may be taxed for the way a municipality has to handle stormwater. So the urban forest has all these different benefits that people may not really realize, and so it's a matter of trying to connect tree values to community values when you want people to really see the resource in a different light. One of the other advantages of the benefit-based approach is that it then allows us to really look at the risks to the urban forests in a whole different way, such as in this example from the city of Milwaukee, who used one of the iTree applications, iTree Eco, or what was then called U4, to do a whole assessment of the city of Milwaukee. With the threat of emerald ash borer approaching, they then could look at, well, what were the risks to their urban forests? So they were looking at a 17.5% canopy loss, which was attributed to all ash tree, and then what that would cost the community in terms of the ecosystem services loss, in terms of lost pollution removal, lost energy saving, lost stormwater benefits. So that allowed them to be more strategic in their planning and management as to how they wanted to decide to provide these benefits for the community going forward. And again, connecting those community values to tree values. So iTree has been utilized by many communities to demonstrate tree value, from Stevens Point to Milwaukee and many points across America. And that's one of the greatest points, is that it can really be effective not only in helping people be strategic in their management and advocacy efforts, but in actually creating effective policy changes at the community level, as can be seen here by this tree tender in Pittsburgh who is at a city council meeting sharing their iTree results with the mayor and city council. So what I'd like to do now is just a quick recap of some of the benefits that iTree provides estimates for, and then also to talk about some of the benefits that iTree can't provide information on. The first one is stormwater. We know that leaves and branch surfaces of trees intercept and store rainfall, thereby reducing runoff volumes and delaying the onset of peak flows. Below ground, roots increase the rate at which rainfall infiltrates into the soil, and the capacity of the soil to store water is thereby increased, reducing overland flow. Tree canopies also reduce soil erosion by diminishing the impact of rain on surfaces below. And then the process of transpiration allows trees to uptake soil moisture from the ground, and thereby increasing the capacity to store rainfall. So the next benefit I wanted to talk about is energy effects. So we know that trees providing shade during the summer can reduce the amount of heat absorbed and stored by building surfaces, thereby reducing the demand for electricity for air conditioning. Conversely, in the winter, trees can act to reduce wind speed and the infiltration of outside air into interior spaces, reducing heat loss. And so this can actually help in the winter to reduce heating costs. And then there are other effects that trees can provide, such as through the process of transpiration. This actually acts as a cooling effect, or what we call a climate effect, and you sometimes feel that when on a very hot day you drive through a very forested area and you instantly feel a little bit cooler in the proximity of a forested area. And then there are other ways that trees can help reduce energy, such as reducing the heat island effect if they're over paved surfaces. And one of the things that iTree also considers is secondary impacts. So the fact that trees are providing these energy effects at the house level or the parcel level, there is then a secondary impact. There's less need for energy demand, and so there's less air pollution created by places that actually generate power for air conditioning and heating. So there's secondary impacts that you'll also see in some of these models. The next benefit that trees can provide is improving air quality, and there's a number of different ways, both by absorbing gaseous pollutants through leaf surfaces such as ozone, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, but then also through intercepting particulate matter such as particulate matter PM10 or PM2.5, which are used to describe the size of certain particles. So PM10 would be particle matter that's less than 10 microns, and 2.5 would be less than 2.5 microns, so finer particulate matter. And then there are also processes such as releasing oxygen through photosynthesis, where trees are improving air quality. And then here again, there is a secondary impact. So the lessening demand for energy creation then causes a reduction in pollutants released into the atmosphere. So a lot of times you'll see that secondary impact also in some of the models for air quality improvement. And we also know that the urban forest can reduce atmospheric carbon dioxide in a couple ways. So we know that trees directly sequester carbon dioxide in their stems and leaves while they grow. And then here again, there is a secondary impact that some of the models account for. Trees near buildings, we know, reduce demand for heating and air conditioning. So that also causes a reduction in emissions that could be associated with power production. And one of the things that I did want to mention too is that we also realize that there is carbon dioxide that is created from maintenance activity. So the act of planting, caring for trees, whether it's running chainsaws, chippers, and so forth, also has a negative impact. So some of the models like iTree Streets will actually have that maintenance impact into the model, so you can actually look at an accounting of benefits and also the negative impacts that go into maintaining trees. It's also important to acknowledge that iTree just can't quantify all of the benefits attributed to trees. So many of the things such as wildlife habitat or reduction in stress, reduction in domestic violence, there's a lot of research that shows that there are numerous benefits out there that trees provide, but it's difficult to build some of those types of benefits into the model to provide yearly estimates and then monetary values for some of those. So it's important when you do talk about tree benefits, because sometimes a lot of people might be looking for a wow factor and a big dollar value attributed to a tree, and oftentimes you're missing out on some of the most crucial benefits, such as a historic tree that might be in a landscape that you really just can't account for in an iTree model or in any other model for that case. So it's important to realize that iTree can quantify some benefits that we weren't able to a few years back, but there certainly are many, many more that iTree just can't actually capture adequately. Before we start exploring the iTree tools, I wanted to make one last point. We often think if a community has a community forester and a good program and they're managing street trees, that everything is fine. The urban forest is being managed and our community is doing well. But we don't often realize that the trees that are usually managed by a public municipality really are a small percentage. And I believe that Dick Rideout mentioned that 85% of the trees actually occur on private property. So it really is important to be able to connect tree values at that local scale. And this is just an example of a community tree inventory, and this is the city of Lake Forest in Illinois. And you can see that when you overlay the summer aerial on top of that, how much of that urban forest really just occurs on private property. So it really speaks to the importance of individuals. So having a good community tree program really is essential to have everybody in the community involved. So it's not just the folks who are managing street trees. It's the homeowners, it's the golf courses, it's the cemeteries, it's the college campuses, grade schools, and so forth. So some of the tools that we will start to explore will kind of help us connect with some of those key audiences that we may have not traditionally engaged in the past. So the iTree software suite of tools has expanded over the course of the year since 2006 when it was first introduced. And there are tools that have been phased out and new tools which have since been integrated into the suite. And two of the tools which I think are really beneficial now are iTree Design and iTree Canopy. And so we're going to spend more time on those two tools as we go through the next phase. And then there are a series of desktop tools. So iTree Eco, iTree Streets, iTree Hydro. There's also a tool called iTree View. And then there's some management utilities which we're not going to discuss, like iTree Storm, iTree Species, and a pest detection module. So we're going to try to keep things somewhat simple and look at the tools that are most successful, iTree Design and iTree Canopy, and then we'll explore iTree Streets to a lesser extent where there might be some applicability for master gardeners and volunteers.